Today, I'm going to give you my best labor tips as someone who has given birth 3 times, all unmedicated home births, each one under 9 hours, and no tearing in any of them. So I'm not going to hold anything back. This will be very helpful, whether you've given birth already or like this is your second time, third time, whatever, or your first time giving birth. These are, like I said, my best labor tips. This is how I have had incredibly peaceful, powerful, positive birth experiences. So if we don't know each other, my name is Sarah. Like I said, I am a mom of 3. I'm a pre and postnatal yoga teacher and a pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise specialist. And I am here to help you feel good during pregnancy, have a positive and empowering birth experience, whatever that looks like for you. Because for some people, that is an unmedicated home birth, like I had. For some people, it is an epidural in a hospital or a birthing center. I've worked with tons of moms who have had positive, beautiful C-section experiences. So whatever birth ends up looking like for you, I believe it is possible to have a peaceful and empowering experience that we don't have control over how things go, but we do have a lot of influence. So this video is going to help you step into your influence and make sure that you have as good as possible of a birth experience, as positive as possible. Okay, let's jump into it. My best labor tips. Number 1, pelvic floor prep. That is not Kegels. So don't get me wrong. I'm not going to talk a ton about Kegels in this video, but Kegels are not the devil. Like, they're not the worst thing in the world. They actually can be incredibly helpful for a lot of people. But most people are doing them wrong. And most people, your pelvic floor is already tight. And so to do Kegels on top of that is like trying to tighten something that's already tight. So it's not going to work. And really for labor, you want your pelvic floor muscles to be relaxed. Because for one thing, there's so many reasons. Your pelvic floor and your jaw are connected. So if your pelvic floor is really tight because you've been doing a million Kegels and your jaw is really tight, then you're going to be resisting contractions. This is why we say during labor to moan, to flutter your lips, anything to try and relax the jaw, literally even jaw massage, because that will help relax the pelvic floor. And if you are laboring, that can help move your labor along rather than resisting it, right? And kind of stalling your own labor. If you end up giving birth vaginally, your pelvic floor does not push the baby out. The pelvic floor has to relax and get out of the way so that the baby can emerge. And so by doing a million Kegels again and not letting your pelvic floor relax, you're potentially making things harder for yourself in labor. So my number 1 tip is to do the right kind of pelvic floor prep that is not Kegels. And pelvic floor relaxation is a whole other topic of discussion that I will save for another day. But this is why in my program Core Power, we do tons of pelvic floor release and the right kind of pelvic floor work, like doing Kegels the right way. This is why in Preparing for Birth, my 6-week program, we incorporate pelvic floor release, and we're doing tons of pelvic floor stuff that, again, is not just like squeeze, 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 squeeze. And anyway, speaking of the right way to do Kegels, I'll walk you through that in my Pelvic Floor 101 video. So watch that after this one if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, I could talk too much about pelvic floor stuff. So let me move on. Number 2, my second best labor tip is, for me, I know how to help my baby move down. And this is something that you can learn too. It's all about, let me grab my pelvis. So your pelvis, you see, it is wider at the top than at the bottom. So in the beginning of labor, like the first stages of labor, you need to help your baby descend into the pelvis. And then this one is like screwed like really tight. So it's not flexible, but there are some pelvis models that are flexible and you can literally like squeeze these together. So I'm going to use my hands instead. If this is the pelvis, the bowl of the pelvis, at first baby needs to get down in there. And then the pelvis has to open at the bottom so baby can get out. And that's a matter of having your knees together versus your knees apart. Okay. It's easier. Like, there are illustrations and I'm just trying to verbalize this to you. So if you're having a hard time visualizing it, I get it. But point being, there are different positions to be using throughout labor, first to help your baby descend and then to help your baby get the hell out of there. Sorry, I don't usually curse on YouTube, but here I am. Something else that was like really, really helpful for me with my 3rd baby, and it kind of happened without me realizing it or like me doing it on purpose, was literally saying down and out, down and out, down and out. And it was like me kind of like channeling, like, okay, baby, you got to get down and you got to get out. And it was kind of an affirmation or like a mantra that I carried with me throughout that whole labor. My third point kind of builds on that one. My third labor tip is to have a nervous system that is trained to stay soft under pressure. This is what my Preparing for Birth program does. It literally trains your body and your mind to stay calm, whether you are holding chair pose for 60 seconds, which is actually a really long time to hold chair pose, or you are going through a contraction for 60 seconds. There's a reason we practice something like goddess or chair, like a challenging yoga pose, for the same length of time that a contraction usually lasts, because it shows you can do anything for 60 seconds. And we practice all these techniques, whether it's breathing or like mindfulness and this whole mind-body connection, which is a very real thing. We practice that to train your nervous system that it's okay, you are safe, you can relax. And that is what helps your labor progress. And that's what helps you have a positive labor and birth experience. Okay, number 4, clean hair. My hair is clean right now. I'm kidding. That's not like my best tip, but I will say this is something that I do in every single labor, and my hair actually is clean right now, which is why I'm wearing it down. But when I feel my first contractions, the first thing I do is go to the shower and wash my hair, because the warm water feels good on my belly or my low back for contractions. I don't want to have to deal with washing my hair when I'm like 48 hours postpartum, because I only wash my hair like once every 5 to 7 days. So I'm like, I just bought myself another week. And it's a great distraction. I highly recommend planning ahead of time what you're going to do when you feel your first contractions, whether it's watching a movie, cleaning your bathroom, baking cookies, washing your hair, calling a friend, going for a walk. So you have something to kind of distract yourself, because if you're really, there's definitely a time in labor to be really, really focused, but there's also a time to be distracted, to allow things to progress on their own. And for me, that's washing my hair. The last thing I will say, my final point, for me, because I gave birth at home, something that was immensely helpful for me was to have my husband and my kids there for labor and the birth. So when I was in labor with our second, I was actually kind of preoccupied. It was like 1 or 2 a.m. and I was preoccupied with our toddler who was asleep, and I really wanted him to be there. And in between contractions, I would ask my husband, like, do you think we should go wake him up now? I really don't want him to miss this. And I was like worried. And then as soon as he was there, I could relax. And it was just a beautiful thing. I would look at him in between contractions, and it was just like a beacon of like hope and peace and light and beauty, and like just really lovely. And then with my third, at that point, I had a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And, it was a little crazy having a little toddler at that birth, but it also was really, really special. Like, I just felt like these are my people. We are a family. Even though like my body is the one birthing, we are all doing this together. Like, it's a really important and beautiful family experience. That is my personal preference. Not everyone is comfortable with that. That's not a possibility for a lot of people. Like, if you're not giving birth at home, you're not going to have that option. But I will say, if you are giving birth at home, when I had one kid and I was pregnant with the second, I remember worrying, like, is this going to scare him? But kids really know. I feel like if you just kind of act like things are normal, they will think that it's normal, because it is normal. Birth is a beautiful, normal thing. And if they're uncomfortable, like, they know to excuse themselves. Like, if you kind of leave it open to them, like you leave some toys out in the living room just in case they want to go and do that instead of like sit there and watch you moan, they can kind of be the captain of their own ship. And it's a really beautiful, incredible thing. And I'll just add, like, having my young children hold their newborn sibling minutes after giving birth, within the first hour, is just like, talk about what's it called? The golden hour. Like, that brings like the idea of the golden hour to a whole new level. It's just so beautiful, really, really special. And it is probably one of the best things I've ever experienced in my life. Anyway, and I will say, I've had 3 home births. I feel like I'm very careful with my words about this, because I don't want it to sound like, well, I had 3 home births, so you should have home birth too. No, home birth is not for everyone. But I am genuinely sharing my experience. This has been my experience. This is what's made it really lovely. And even if you don't plan the exact same type of birth experience I've had, maybe you can take tidbits and it will be helpful for you. So I hope it is helpful. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Go watch the Pelvic Floor 101 video right after this, and it's going to go even deeper into the pelvic floor stuff.